Guys, so today we are going to be talking about overeating, what causes overeating, my personal experience of overeating, a certain triggers that you want to look out for, how do you know you're overeating or not, and tips that can tackle. Stick around till the end of the video because we want to keep it as easy and smooth with a lot of information. Hey guys, welcome to episode 2. Welcome to the Irrational Sense podcast. This is your host, Jude Charlton. Today, even before I start, I'd like to say thank you to all those who did watch the first episode, where I do talk about stammering and stuttering and how I went through it and tips that I share on how you guys can improve or pass through the hurdle of stammering and stuttering. For those who haven't watched the video is in the show notes. And for those who are listening on Spotify, the episode 1 is where it describes what I'm talking about. So for those who haven't caught that episode, to take a look at it. But for everyone else today who gave me a second chance by clicking play, today I am here and I'm going to talk to you guys about how I am a failing success, if that's a word, or a successful failure. I would be taking this topic in a very light sense because I'm going to be talking about me, my experiences, what I tried, and I'm also going to share about what you guys can try as well. That does not mean I'm insensitive about it. I'm really aware on how things can be really bad for those who are going through it. So I'd like to put that out there to let you guys know that this is not a jab at anyone who's going through it emotionally and who are also going through it physically and have been really trying to work on it. Hats off to you guys. I really appreciate the effort that you guys are putting in. And this is by no way, shape or form demeaning your efforts. And it is by no way talking down on what you're trying to do. This video is just an expression of how I feel, what I go through, and also expressing on how you guys can as well. Now let's dive right into the episode. So why overeating? Overeating, from what I understand, has existed with mankind and Homo sapiens for a very long time. But it's just that the reason why they had to overeat was justifiable. When human beings or sapiens were hunters and gatherers, they would forage on whatever they get their hands on because they do not know when their next meal is. I would like to quote a book called Sapiens, which is a very, very famous book. And I enjoyed reading it, and I think you guys should also give it a try. It is really interesting to find out on how men moved from hunters and gatherers over to agricultural sector and the whole evolution of mankind and how food habits changed and how technology changed, and specifically food. It is mind-blowing to know on how we still follow our ancestral ways and ancestral habits, but which do not make sense with the existing current situation. Overeating has existed from way back yonder, but it was not overeating because that would be the only meal for the day. So it was an excessive meal, or it was the only meal, so it was a perfect optimal meal for people back then. So that habit with mankind of having to eat more than what is required at that point in time has been a habit that has continued from our ancestors. And back then, it made sense, rightfully so, they wouldn't know when their next meal is. But today, we have resources, a lot of resources, especially for the ones who are fortunate. I am aware of the unfortunate people out there who do not have the access to food like how we do, and it definitely is unfortunate. But if you are someone who's listening to this and watching this based on overeating, you do know that this is for people who do have access to it and who cannot control themselves due to various factors, including me. So with overeating, I think one of the things that happened to me is when I eat, repent, and repeat. Eat, repent, and repeat. I eat things that I like and I overeat it a lot of times. I repent after I eat them because it is not something that I should be doing, but I continue to do. and I repeat it at very consistent intervals. And I think that is detrimental to me. I would like you guys to know that this is not a professionally trained expert trying to give you advice, but it is definitely a professional common man who's trying to tell you on what he went through. We're going to look at what happens when we overeat and some of the discomforts that I feel as well. Overeating causes stomach distension. You do have a bloated stomach. It is not pleasant when you feel heavy, when you feel sluggish after you eat, which is definitely one of the symptoms that I hate. And I just enjoy the part of being sluggish, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, it's not pleasant. When you overeat, your organs work faster in terms of just trying to process all that food. So you do feel a burn in your energy. Your energy goes down. You almost shut down because your body is working really fast to process that extra excessive overheat in food that you have or that I have. This is definitely a symptom that you guys know and you're aware of. This is a killer for me. At times when you overeat certain foods, you do get a heartburn. Or this typically happens when you overeat excessive food. So your body produces HCl, hydrochloric acid, for the excessive food that you eat. This excessive hydrochloric acid is the reason why you have an heartburn. And also, overeating, your metabolism speeds up, you feel more fatigue, more sluggish. So there are certain foods that I pick that I overeat. Rice being one, chicken being the next, beef being the next. So there are certain sector foods that I eat, and also I do not overeat junk food at times. I cannot eat, or rather I do not overeat junk food. I don't eat like 7 burgers. I don't eat 2 large pizzas. I don't do a huge pasta dish. These are things I don't eat. At times, even when I go out, and I prefer to have a meal, probably a pizza, pasta, I come back home to have a home cooked meal and I overeat that. It generally is the home cooked meals that I overeat. It's different for different people, I completely understand, but this is how it is for me. You guys could be at any spectrum of overeating, but this is what I go through. For those who stick around this video for this long, I'd like to say that this video has got my personal experience, has got a couple of myths that I want to bust, and at the end there are tips that would help you. There are more than 5+ tips that is going to help you guys overcome or improve on overeating, because I am not a success at it as yet. So stick around till the end of the video because we got a lot more to come. So I'd like to talk about 3 myths that I'd like to bust, which I had to bust before I could proceed, because these 3 myths consumed me. Was there a pun intended? No. Myth number 1. Overeating is not a sign of health anymore. Being fat is not a sign of health anymore. So at times, people out of love want to serve you a lot of food. It is great that once a while you get to do it, but I had this in my head for a very, very long time, that overeating means I have the ability to eat. I can eat. I'm strong. I'm young. That's really not the case, because this existed in probably my parents' times, even before, when the physical activity was excessively or 2 to 3 pounds more than what I do, which made sense, but now absolutely not. My physical activity is, I would call it nil, even though I do go to the gym and work out. It's insignificant in comparison to what I eat. This is how I look at it. Different people deal with it differently. If you are someone who still gets in their steps, who still gets in the gym, who has controlled eating, and if that's working for you, that's great. I am very self-critical about things. So when I tell you things, people around me are going to look at me and say, that's not true. You go to the gym more often. You have your controlled eating. But no, I think for me, I slip off a lot more times than you can think. And I think for me to stay on track is very hard. So overeating on the whole is not healthy. So second myth or second habit that I would like to break is, do not starve yourself with restrictive feeding. Restrictive feeding, I mean in terms of not having a wholesome, complete meal during your meal times or every single day. Out of the 3 meals that you eat, you want to make sure that all your meals are wholesome. When I say wholesome, I mean in terms of your macronutrients and your micronutrients, your proteins, your carbs, your fats, and all your micronutrients, your multivitamins, every single thing that your body needs. So, eating different kinds of foods, eating colored foods, and there are so many other ways on how you can get your micronutrients in. Do get your micronutrients in because they are a lot more important than you think. So, restrictive feeding does not help. The third myth or the third habit, which I definitely would like to bust because I've tried it, I've just made it worse. It may work for a lot of you guys, but for me personally, it has not worked. And if you are someone who's already struggling with overeating, I suggest you do not do this based on my experience. But if it's working for you, then by all means, do not diet without exercise. The reason why I say that is because diet is one of the most corrupted words I would say today, because diet does not mean eating less. Diet means eating wholesome foods with all the nutrients and all the macros and the micros that you need in every meal for 3 to 4 times a day. When you overeat, or rather, when you diet and you don't go to the gym, it's hard because for me to control eating itself is mental. When you go to the gym, it helps because there is a lot of dopamine and endorphins that release when you go to the gym. It has a psychological effect on you and you feel so much more better. And now that you eat already, your psychological needs are taken care of because going to the gym definitely makes you feel good, and there are so many scientific reasons on how that makes you feel good. So having to eat less and not go to the gym is not a good idea. I've tried it. I've only overeaten every time. I think I eat way lesser when I go to the gym, only because of the effort I take to go there and lift weights and do the cardio and come back. And when I eat, I'm like, man, I don't want to overeat because there's so much effort. I literally spent 2.5 hours today. I'm not overeating. I'm just done with this meal. I'm already tired with it, so I don't overeat. So that's how I cope with it. That's how it happens to me. The days that I'm absolutely fresh, energized, and I don't go to the gym, and I think I can restrictively eat, doesn't work. How do you know if someone overeats, or how do you know if someone is overeating? There are a couple of ways on how you could find this out. Number one, you eat out of boredom. Whenever you are bored, you just go grab a snack and you just go grab a meal and you just go at it. Signs you want to watch out when it comes to overeating. For someone who overeats or someone who eats when they're bored, out of boredom, snacking on things directly from the container, you may want to watch out for those signs. If you are someone who relies on food to cope your emotions, if you are a stress eater, some of us are stress shoppers, some of us are stress eater. I think for me, borderline, there could be some amount of something that leads me to overeat. I do not know if it's stress, because even when I'm happy, I overeat. Generally, it works the reverse for me. When I'm not feeling the best, I do not overeat. That applies even when it comes to alcohol for me. When I'm not really feeling the best, I don't want to indulge in it. But I'm feeling good, then I do want to have a drink or two. So there's nothing wrong in it, only because the mind controls your body. And at the end of it, if you are overeating because to cope up with the emotions, you may want to find other alternatives. You may want to work out. You may want to find different other techniques and ways, probably yoga, probably going for walks outside. These are the triggers which are there, and you guys may want to watch out for these triggers. Hey guys, for all those who are sticking around and listening to the video and the audio, thank you. Do stick around till the end of the video, because I would want to share a couple of resources which continue to help me, and it would help you guys as well. And now for the rest of the video. I would like to make one thing very clear. This video is not about eating disorders, because eating disorders are completely different from overeating. There are 3 types of eating disorders. We are more so relying on the binging aspect of it and overeating. So this is a video dedicated to overeating, but this is not an eating disorder video, because there are different types of eating disorders. I would like to make that really clear. just because there could be a lot of confusing information. For those who want a lot more information about eating disorders and healthy eating, I do follow Stanford professor, who is one of my favorite podcaster to listen to. I think some of you will already know by now. His name is Andrew Huberman Lab podcast, excuse me. So this podcast, he shares a lot of science and science-based tools, techniques that you can apply to your everyday life to improve and enhance it. It comes in terms of eating, in terms of sleep. There are so many and wide varieties of information that he shares, and it's really interesting. Great watch and great listen. Huberman Lab podcast on Spotify. These are tips and tricks that can help you. Overeating is not a phenomena that I have surpassed or have broke through. I am still working on it, and I am sure that you guys will continue to work on it too. But these are the few things which I did and I tried, and it helped me. Tip number 1, learn your body and your stress triggers. One of the most important things when it comes to overeating or anything, you want to take the approach of knowing what it is and learning your body and your triggers. Why do you overeat? What causes you to overeat? Why do you overeat certain foods? And why not something else? So you want to know your triggers. You want to learn about yourself even before you tackle anything ahead of you. So learn your triggers, stay with it, because the more you learn, the more you know yourself, and the more better equipped you are to tackle them. So tip number 1, you got to know what the triggers are and how you can tackle them. Tip number 2, this was or is very crucial, and it worked for me a lot. I do not continue to do this, unfortunately, for some odd reason, like why I don't stick consistently to habits. But this tip has really helped me, and I'm sure it helps you guys as well. Tip number 2 is slow eating or taking a pause in between meals. Now, what do I mean by that? Slow eating is more mindful, calm eating. You are not eating when you're distracted. When you're watching TV and you're just going at it, you do not know how much you're eating. You want to be more mindful, you want to be more calm, you want to sip a glass of water before you start, and you want to be present in the moment. This is something that I failed at, but it has worked for me when I stuck to it. And I'm pretty sure and I'm confident that it would work for all of you guys, simply because it is that one little habit that if I change today, I do not fall in this category. I just do not eat mindfully, I just go at it. So that is your number 2 tip. The reason being is the hardest tip. I still am working on it. I have not let it go. And I'm sure that you guys should also be looking at eating slow and eating calm. Number 3, I think this is something that we discussed earlier in the podcast, and I'd like to bring that again to the forefront. The number 3 tip, control or avoid overeating, is having a balanced diet. You want to get all your macro and micronutrients when it comes to food. For me, when it comes to balanced diet, I did realize that I was deficient of the D vitamin. Considering I'm in a colder country and there's the D vitamin is scarcely available, I had to supplement the D vitamins, specifically D3. When I started supplementing D3 vitamins, my overeating and my indulgence towards food, I did see a difference in about a week, and I did feel like there was something that's replenished in my body, and it was a very weird feeling. I know sometimes one vitamin or two you don't see the difference, but all my eating habits changed a bit, and it was definitely because I was deficient of the D vitamin. So highly recommend for those who have not taken a blood test to take a blood test, see what your vitamins are and what you're deficient of, and attack it in a scientific way, because overeating can be a various and a humpty number of reasons why. So you want to be attacking the right reason. Take a blood test. You want to know what your micro and macronutrients are that you're deficient of, and supplement it accordingly. That would definitely help your overall health and, of course, with your overeating. Plan ahead. This is a no-brainer. You want to plan ahead on what you eat, your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. There are so many ways. There are meal prep companies that do it. You could meal prep. You could have a planned diet. You could have what you want to make, what you want to eat that day in that part of the week. You know exactly how to do it. One of the most important things that I've learned when it comes to plan your plan ahead is to keep it simple. Please do not overcomplicate it, because in trying to achieve for perfection in food, you actually drop the ball when it comes to eating your macro and micronutrients. You do not want to do that. You want to hit and eat your healthy foods. At the same time, you want to be able to make and cook simple foods for yourself. If you have someone making food for you, that's amazing. But if you are someone who are making your own food, you want to keep it simple and you want to eat the healthy ingredients. If there are certain food sources that you don't like, you want to supplement alternative food sources that have similar nutrient density in them, so you do not miss out on that as well. But on the overall, keep it simple and plan ahead. You will get through it, because failing to plan is planning to fail. I know I hit that line, but trust me, that's so true. This tip is not easy for me as well, but I do not do it as often as before for certain reasons. But you want to cut down on alcohol for sure, and TV. I'm guilty of both. While eating, I think TV is something that I watch, and while watching TV, I generally overeat, and when I drink alcohol, I overeat as well. These are things that I have not been able to get over it, but I found a way around it. If I know I'm going to be drinking that day, it's not the healthiest way to do it, but I do it, it works for me. I do not want to do it in the long run. I have held back on certain things, and I've changed a few things, and I continue to change a few things. I'm always someone who's constantly changing. When it comes to alcohol, if I know I'm going to be drinking that day and overeating, I try to eat high volume and low calorie food throughout the day. So I give that space for alcohol and a little bit of not binge eating, but a little bit of a cheat or a treat meal for myself towards the end of the day, so it kind of balances it out. There is no overcoming the effects of alcohol and overeating, but that's one of the ways on how I'm still working on getting overeating in terms of alcohol part of it. But in terms of TV, I don't think I'll get over not watching TV when I'm eating, because I think I just enjoy doing it. So one of the ways I tackle around it is I have a portion control. I weigh my food and put that on the plate. I try 100% not to overeat. I try to keep the containers back in the fridge so I don't have to go for it. But at times I also do taking my second serving. If you are someone who really takes your second serving no matter what, you can do this. You can take a smaller portion of your first serving, and you already know that you're going to take a little bit of your second serving. So it kind of balances it out. And you are technically not overeating, but mentally you kind of trick yourself that you're overeating. This is something that I do almost every day. For example, if I have to eat 200 grams of rice for that specific meal, I only eat 150 grams and the rest 50. I don't know. If I want, I would take it. If not, I wouldn't. But even if I take it, I'm guilt-free. So alcohol and TV, you guys want to cut down. If you are someone who does not do these both, that's great. You want to get into more mindful eating, because that's one of the ways and how you can get rid of it. The most important final tip: you do not want to change everything at once. You want to take one step at a time and do it progressively and incrementally. Do not cut down everything. For example, for me to stop overeating, there are some things that I still have, like watching TV and eating. There are things that are a little harder for me to cut off. I keep those, but I keep working on other things, that learning what my nutrient chart field is in terms of what are the things that I need for my body, how am I eating it, so there are different ways in how you can tackle it. You want to learn more about yourself, find out your triggers. Some things may be harder than the other. You want to start making changes of things that are easier right now, and then eventually move to the hard ones. The reason being, if you tackle the smaller ones now, and if you get a grip of it, as you move towards it, you gain confidence that you've already tackled your 4-5 issues that you had, even though it's small. You can now move to the bigger ones, like not being able to eat without watching TV, or constant consumption of alcohol, which is a whole different topic altogether. But there are so many other factors which may not be as easy as the others. So tackle the easy ones, gain confidence, get to the big ones. So these are the tips that has helped me, that I continue to work on it. I have not overcome this challenge and the problem. If you are someone who's continuing to work on it, please do apply these tips. It would get you through. So in this video, we did talk about overeating, what is overeating, my personal experience, the triggers that you want to avoid, how do you know if you're overeating or not, and some of the tips to help you. For all those who stay till the end, thank you for watching and thank you for giving me a chance again. For all those who stuck around till now, I'd like to say I appreciate you guys, and most importantly, overeating is fine only when you're working towards not having to stay in your life forever. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.